Goramara se sabostana, Goraro Brahmanarange. Se sabostana heribo ami, Anaye Bhakata Sange. Mridanga Bhadya Sunite Mana, Abasara Sada Jache. Gora Bihita Kirtana Suni, Anande Hridaya Nache. Jogala Murti Dekhiya Mora, Parama Ananda Hoya. Prasada Seva Korite Hoya, Sakala Prapancha Jaya. Jedina Grihe Bhajana Deki, Grihete Goloka Bhaya. Charana Sidhu Dekiya Ganga, Sukana Simana Paya. Tulasi Deki Juraya Prana, Madhavato Shani Jani. Gora Priya Saka Sevane, Jivana Sartakamani. Bhakati Vina Krishna Bhajane, Anukula Payaja. Pratidiva se Paramasuke, Shikara Koroyeta. Suddha Bhakata Charana Renu, Bhajana Anukula. Bhakata Seva Parama Siddhi, Premalati Koromula. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dust from the lotus feet of pure devotees is conducive to devotional service, while service to the Vaishnavas is itself the supreme perfection and the root of the tender creeper of divine love. I observe with great care the holidays like Ekadasi and Janmashtami, for they are the mother of devotion. As my dwelling place, I choose with the greatest of reverence and love the transcendental abode of Sri Krishna. All those places where my Lord Gosunda traveled for pastimes, I will visit in the company of loving devotees. My mind always begs for the opportunity to hear the music of the Mridanga. Upon hearing the kind of kirtan ordained by Lord Gaurachandra, my heart dances in ecstasy. By beholding the deity forms of the divine couple, Sri Radha Krishna, I feel the greatest joy. By honoring the Lord's prasad, I conquer over all worldly illusions. Goloka Vrindavan appears in my home whenever I see the worship and service of Lord Hari going on there. Upon seeing the Ganges, which is a river of nectar emanating from the lotus feet of the Lord, my happiness knows no bounds. The sight of the holy Tulasi tree soothes my soul, for I know she gives pleasure to Lord Krishna. By honoring Sak, a green leafy vegetable preparation, a dear favorite of Lord Chaitanya, I consider life worthwhile. Whatever Bhaktivinoda obtains that is conducive for the service of Sri Krishna, he accepts every day with the greatest of joy. Yes, Srila Prabhupada. So today we are reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamritam. This is the volume number 4. Sri Gaunitai ki jai. Sri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Sri Jagannath Subhadra Baladev ki jai. This is from the chapter 5, entitled A Lot of Ground to be Covered. So Prabhupada has come to India to develop a new phase in his preaching activities, most important. He had programs in Bombay And I'm reading to describe the end of the chapter. Bombayite or Bombayite would not soon forget the Hare Krishna festival. And a letter from Prabhupada to the ISKCON Life members pledged that it had been only the beginning. Prabhupada wrote in his letter to the life members, by the grace of their Lordship Sri Radha and Krishna, our recent festival in Cross Maidan exhibition ground has been counted a grand success, and quite noticeably, the spirit of bhakti has been actively revived in Bombay. My blessings go especially to all of you who have joined with us in service. As you may know, my plan is to establish in this most auspicious city a unique international Krishna conscious training center where hundreds of persons from abroad may be educated in the Vedic way of life, while at the same time, Indian boys and girls may be trained up for prachar, work in foreign countries. We will construct classrooms, workrooms, dormitories, kitchen for large-scale public prasadam distribution, a lecture hall, library, and a beautiful temple for the glorification of Radha and Krishna. We are on the threshold of bringing this important project to fruition, and we are very excited to inform you the progress made in this respect. You will agree with me that your active participation and your direct involvement in this is most essential. And hence I appeal to you to spare your valuable time for Krishna and make it a point, in spite of your extremely busy life, to extend your unstinted cooperation. It is proposed to hold a meeting on Monday, the 26th April 1971, at 6:30 p.m. at Akash Ganga, 7th floor, 89 Bulabai Desai Road, Bombay 26, to discuss and to finalize plans to channel our united energies to achieve the goal. It will also be a great opportunity for like-minded Krishna devotees to meet, to have darshan of the deities, and to exchange views and suggestions to make rapid progress in spiritual life. I very much want to meet you again, so kindly make it a must to attend our meeting. There is a lot of ground to be covered to spread Krishna consciousness to millions and millions of our slumbering brothers and sisters. End of quote from the letter addressed to the life members of ISKCON by Srila Prabhupada in Bombay. That so many were accepting ISKCON and the Sankirtan movement as bona fide testify to the purity of Srila Prabhupada's presentation of Lord Krishna's teachings. His teachings were not sectarian. They were meant for everyone all over the world. He was teaching love of Krishna, the universal principle for all humanity. In his lectures at the Pandal, he had lamented that although India was known as the land of religion, where God consciousness had traditionally permeated society, India's leaders were becoming atheists and communists. Whether Indians, polluted by the madness for sense gratification and confused by a hodgepodge of pseudo-religious teachings, could still recognize and adopt the real thing remained to be seen. But at least in Bombay, the Pandal program had had a great effect. Of that, Prabhupada felt satisfied. The program had been the same program he had introduced everywhere: chanting, dancing, taking prasadam, worshipping the deity, hearing about Lord Krishna. It was Lord Chaitanya's program, adapted slightly according to the particular circumstances, but Lord Chaitanya's program nonetheless. This Sankirtan was the only possible remedy for the disease of modern society. Yet people were reluctant to take the remedy. Prabhupada therefore had labeled the bottle. The medicine was unchanged, but he had labeled it attractively: a gala evening of entertainment, music, and refreshments featuring the youth of America and Europe transformed into Vaishnavas. The labeling was simple, non-deceptive. Everyone in Bombay knew well that the Hare Krishna Pandal festival was a product of their own Vedic heritage. They were fully aware that the Hare Krishna leader was a great acharya in the ancient tradition, but it had come to them in such a spectacular and attractive way that they had become caught up in it. Madhudvisha says, no one readily thought Prabhupada was leaving India. In India, Prabhupada was cutting edge of the whole movement. He was a force. Things were moving because of Prabhupada. In the Western world, Prabhupada would give the idea and the devotees would expand on it. Prabhupada was the overseer, but he did not have such an integral, active part in the West. But in India, Prabhupada was right in the thick of it. He was checking the accounts. He was so much involved in the Indian scene that Rishi Kumar, the Bombay treasurer, would have to go to Prabhupada every other day and show him the accounts. He was very much involved in everything. The whole movement in India depended on Prabhupada. Because of this, no one thought that Prabhupada would really leave us. End of the chapter. Chapter 6, Jet Age, Parivardhakacharya. May 1971. Srila Prabhupada prepared for extensive world travel. Although his itinerary was indefinite, his general plan was travel widely for a few months, then tour the US, visit London, and then return to India. He had sent disciples to Australia and Malaysia, and he wanted to visit them. He also wanted to go to Moscow and was awaiting a letter of permission from the Soviet government. As he had spread his movement in America, visiting major cities and preaching, and then stationing a few faithful disciples there to carry on, he now expanded his field to include the whole world. Srila Prabhupada's traveling was in the mood of Narada Muni, the eternally wandering devotee. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada had translated Narada Muni's words. Quote from the translation, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied and without being proud or envious. I do travel everywhere by the grace of the Almighty Vishnu, either in the transcendental world or in the three divisions of the material world, without any restrictions, because I'm fixed up, unbroken in the devotional service of the Lord. I do travel as above mentioned by constantly singing the glories of the Lord in transcendental message by vibrating this instrument of Veena, charged with transcendental sound and given to me by Lord Krishna. And of course, and in his Bhagavatam purports, Srila Prabhupada had explained, quote from the purport, It is a duty of a mendicant to have experience of all varieties of God's creation as Parivrajaka or traveling alone through all forests, hills, towns, villages, etc., to gain faith in God and strength of mind as well as to enlighten the inhabitants of the message of God. A sannyasi is duty bound to take all these risks without any fear, and the most typical sannyasi of the present age is Lord Chaitanya, who traveled in the same manner through the central India jungles, enlightening even the tigers, bears, snakes, deers, elephants, and many other jungle animals. End of quote. In the age of Kali, Prabhupada had explained, sannyas is especially difficult. If, however, one did take sannyas, then, quote, one who may take the vow of renunciation of family life may not imitate the Parivrajakacharyas like Narada or Lord Chaitanya, but may sit down at some holy place and devote the whole time and energy in hearing and repeatedly chanting the holy scriptures left by the great acharyas like the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. End of quote. Yet Prabhupada was traveling as a mendicant missionary, Parivrajacharya, having already attained the advanced stage wherein the pure devotee resides in Vrindavan and chants Hare Krishna incessantly. He was now traveling for the good of the whole world. He, like Narada, was traveling to all parts of the world. As a new writer in India had appropriately titled him, he was a jet-age Parivrajacharya. A few brahmacharis, each only recently initiated by Srila Prabhupada, had been preaching alone on the tropical peninsula of Malaysia for several months. With nearly 1 million Indians in Malaysia, many of them wealthy and influential, the brahmacharis were meeting with success. During one program at a Hindu temple in Kuala Lumpur, a South Indian doctor and his lawyer wife expressed their appreciation of the devotees and offered to donate a house and some land to ISKCON. When the devotees visited the property and found that the offer was serious, they informed Prabhupada, who decided to visit. Prabhupada, accompanied by his disciple Vegavan, flew from Bombay to Kuala Lumpur. Since he planned to go next to Sydney and install Radha Krishna deities in the new temple there, he carried the deities with him, the same Radha and Krishna who had presided at the Bombay Pandal. Lord Krishna rode in a wooden box in the plane's luggage compartment, and Srimati Radharani, wrapped in cloth, rested on Vegavan's lap. Within a brief time after Prabhupada's arrival at Kuala Lumpur, he was lecturing before a large audience at his host home. Quote from his lecture. I am very glad to inform you that we have reached Malaysia very shortly, that on my arrival there was a nice meeting, and then we have come outside the city. Yesterday I was very busy all day. End of quote. For 2 days, Prabhupada stayed in the home of a wealthy Sindhi merchant of Kuala Lumpur. The house was large and luxurious, with thick carpets and large mirrors. But when Prabhupada learned that his hosts were meat eaters, he refused to eat anything except fruit and milk, even though his disciples offered to cook for him. His disciples, having traveled throughout Malaysia, considered eating at the homes of meat eaters permissible. as long as the devotees could prepare their prasadam in pots not used for cooking meat. But Prabhupada's standard was higher. One room in the house held a large collection of marble deities, about 50 sets of Lakshmi Narayana and Hare Krishna deities in rows. It appeared to be more of a collection display than worship, however, and Prabhupada was unimpressed. Prabhupada lectured at the Kuala Lumpur Town Hall and the Lakshmi Narayana temple, mostly to Indians. He explained that people could be united only on the spiritual platform. Look at the United Nations, he said. They are adding more and more flags, and there are only more and more wars. This Krishna consciousness movement will be the real United Nations. Prabhupada had brought with him slides of ISKCON's activities, and he had one of his disciples narrate a slideshow, coaching him on what to say. When a slide appeared of Rathiata in London's Trafalgar Square, Prabhupada prompted the devotee, now it's no more Lord Nelson, now it is Lord Jagannath. When Prabhupada met the couple offering the land, he discovered that the agreement had certain important conditions. The doctor and his wife said that they would give ISKCON a large a large piece of land near the main highway, and that their own construction company would build the temple. Within 2 years, however, if the company had not completed the building, the doctor and his wife would reclaim the property. Always eager to consider any serious donation of land, Prabhupada accepted the conditional offer. But he knew that such offers were usually too conditional. Already the doctor and his wife had hinted of Indian Brahmanas running the temple, and of ISKCON's having only a side altar. One evening, as Prabhupada talked with the doctor, a gynecologist, the talk turned to birth control. Prabhupada explained its sinfulness, and he gave an example. If somebody poisoned the air in the room he and the doctor were sitting in, then they would have to leave the room or die. Similarly, Prabhupada explained, contraception meant to poison the womb, denying a soul its rightful shelter. Like Prabhupada's previous host, the doctor ate meat, although the devotees had been pushing him to give it up. Prabhupada was gentle. Try to stop eating meat, he urged. It was Ekadasi, and Prabhupada decided to fast from all food, again showing extreme reluctance to eat in the home of a meat eater. Sydney, May 9, 1971. The Sydney devotees were not ready for Prabhupada. An early telegram had informed them he was coming, but a later telegram had said, Prabhupada not coming now. A third telegram had come, announcing that Balimardan, the Australian GBC secretary, was coming. When a fourth telegram had stated only arriving and the date and flight number, the devotees had presumed this referred to Balimardan, not to Prabhupada. The devotees had taken a small garland and had gone to meet the plane, and when the doors to the customs area opened and Prabhupada himself walked out, they were flabbergasted. A white attaché case in his left hand, a cane in his right, a lightweight chador around his shoulder. Srila Prabhupada entered the airport. Reporters on hand to interview Bali Mardan came eagerly forward, one of them inquiring why Prabhupada had come to Australia. Replying softly, Prabhupada said he traveled everywhere, just as a salesman travels everywhere. A salesman looks for customers wherever he can find them, and Prabhupada was traveling, searching for anyone intelligent enough to accept his message. There is no difference in coming to Australia, he said. The governments have made a demarcation. This is Australia, but we see everywhere as the land of Krishna. One of the devotees hurried to found the temple. Prabhupada was coming. Like Prabhupada's original temple at 26 2nd Avenue in New York, the Sydney temple was one-room storefront on a main business thoroughfare. On the storefront's plate glass window, one of the devotees had painted a picture of Radha and Krishna. Prabhupada entered the room and found it bare, except for a simple wooden altar with a 3-inch Jagannath deities and a big cloth-covered Vyasasana. An old rug hid the floor. The blue haze hanging in the air was smoke from the downstairs kitchen, where a devotee was frantically burning cumin seeds to spice Prabhupada's lunch. Prabhupada remained grave as he walked deliberately to the rear door and looked outside. But when he saw garbage and boards stacked high against the building, his gravity turned to sternness. What is all this? He asked. Someone tried an explanation. Unsatisfactory. A devotee brought a glass of milk. Too hot, Prabhupada said, and the devotee took it away. Prabhupada sat on the large Vyasasana. He looked around the room at each face. None of the 15 or so devotees had ever seen him before, and only a handful had been initiated by mail. They were untrained. The carpet was dirty, he said. It should be replaced. And why were there no flowers on the altar? He had brought Radha and Krishna deities, but before the devotees could begin their worship, everything must be very clean. The devotees would have to become brahmanas before they could worship Radha and Krishna. These devotees, Prabhupada saw, knew little of Krishna consciousness. The devotees who had come to Australia originally, Upendra and Bali Mardan, had opened the center and left, returning but rarely. Thus, an entire temple of inexperienced devotees had been virtually left on its own. Since none of the Sydney devotees could lecture well, the daily classes had consisted of readings from Prabhupada's abridged Bhagavad Gita as it is, the only book they had. Yet their firm faith in Prabhupada compensated for their lack of training. They accepted him as a pure devotee directly in touch with God, and they accepted his books as truth and Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But many practical things they did not know, such as how to cook, lecture, and worship the deities. They knew Prabhupada wanted them to chant Hare Krishna publicly and distribute back to Godhead magazines to the people of Sydney. And this they did daily. Despite frequent arrests, they continued with their Sankirtan. Sincerity they had. They only lacked training. A devotee brought Prabhupada his lunch, poorly cooked. The chapatis half burnt, half raw, the vegetables wrongly spiced. Prabhupada rebuked the cook. If you did not know how to cook, why did not you tell me? I can show you. And he went into the kitchen. One of the cooks had tried to make kachoris and had failed. Although she knew that the dough had to be rolled thin, the filling put in just right, and then the edges folding over precisely, neither she nor any of the other devotees had been able to do it. Prabhupada, using the same dough and filling, demonstrated the art and made perfect kachoris. The devotees explained their difficulty in making chapatis. There was no flame on their electric stove. The chapatis always came out dry or raw or burned and never puffed up. The excuse only annoyed Prabhupada, however, who showed exactly how to make chapatis that puffed up every time, even on an electric burner. Then he taught the cooks a simple vegetable dish, advising how as he cooked. After he left the kitchen, the devotees tried the chapatis again. They would not puff. It seemed a magical art only Prabhupada knew. Srila Prabhupada had his reasons for bringing Radha and Krishna to Australia. Some of them apparent, others so deep that only he and Radha and Krishna could understand them. Of course, he was always expanding his movement, of which deity worship was an important part. So that was one reason for bringing Radha and Krishna to Australia, to strengthen the devotees and establish more solidly his movement there. And Prabhupada loved these deities. They had presided over the Bombay Pandal, and when they hadn't been on stage, he had kept them in his room, where he could look at them during the day. He had brought them from Bombay to Malaysia, to Sydney, and now he proposed to install them in this fledgling ISKCON center. But the infinite purity of his heart and the depth of his determination to risk anything for their lordship, Sri Radha and Krishna, are unfathomable. Srila Prabhupada's activities are most grave, and their deeper meaning eludes an observer. Of Lord Chaitanya, Krishnadas Kaviraj wrote, I do not know the deep meaning of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities. I'm just trying to describe them externally. When Prabhupada came to the temple to perform the initiation ceremony and deity installation, the devotees were not ready. Only one small vase of flowers decorated the almost bare altar, and the devotees had not made garlands for the deities. Prabhupada was displeased. The small temple was packed, however, and guests and devotees crowded the open doorway and peered through the front window. TV crews filmed the action under hot lamps. While devotees hurriedly strung garlands for the deities, Prabhupada performed the initiation ceremony. There were 15 initiates in all. To some devotees, he gave first initiation, to some second initiation, and to others both first and second. Then he lovingly bathed the forms of Radha and Krishna and performed the fire sacrifice. While dressing the deities, he remarked that their clothes had been poorly made and that the devotees should make new ones immediately. He named the deities Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. Vaibhavi says, he initiated everyone in the temple, anyone who was there, even one boy who had just joined that week and had only come across Krishna consciousness the week before, and people who weren't living in the temple, just anyone who was there and somehow serving. He wanted Krishna consciousness to be established in Australia, so he just initiated everybody. He gave first and second initiations at the same time, because having installed the deities, there had to be some brahmanas. But we did not know anything. We were not even ready. The altar was not finished. Prabhupada explained to me that we had to string flowers for a garland. The deity was supposed to wear one. I was running up and down the street trying to find some flowers and get some thread and make a garland. Same with the sacred thread. There were no sacred threads. Prabhupada gave the men a sacred thread at Brahmana initiation, but no one really knew what it was. So I had to run and buy some string. And while Prabhupada was initiating people, I was sitting there in the arena making sacred threads, copying the one that Balimardan had taken off himself. I made 5 of them, and then I was next. After the sacrifice, and after I came out of Prabhupada's room, where he'd given me the Gayatri mantra, the other devotees said, "You're a Brahmana now, so you have to have a sacred thread too." They told me to make one for myself, which I did not, because someone told me later a woman was not supposed to wear one. We just didn't know much. And of course, at Sydney Grammar School, an elite school for boys, Prabhupada led his disciples and a group of students in a kirtan procession through the schoolyard. About 200 boys and several teachers took part. Some children frolicking and laughing, some singing the mantra, some soberly following the procession as the teachers smiled and watched. The procession ended in a large room with a row of chairs in the front. Prabhupada sat in the headmaster's elaborately carved throne-like seat in the center and began playing kartals, continuing the chanting of Hare Krishna. Seeing only a few students responding, he stopped and looked around at the children sitting before him. Prabhupada says to the children, "So you are all beautiful boys. Why you do not join us in chanting Hare Krishna? Is it very difficult? Will you not try to chant Hare? Say Hare." A few children, Hare. Prabhupada, all of you chant Hare. The children weakly, Hare. Some jiggled. Prabhupada led them through the mantra, one word at a time. Still, some children were reticent. Prabhupada says, there are only 3 words, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. Is it very difficult? Chant Hare, chant again, Hare. Children, Hare. Teasing and prodding, Prabhupada coaxed them. Oh, you cannot chant. You are all dumb. The children broke into laughter. How is that? 3 words you cannot chant? Oh, that is very astonishing. Chant, Hare, Hare, Krishna, Krishna. Prabhupada began rhythmically ringing his kartals, the children following him as he sang, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. After a short time, Prabhupada brought the kirtan to a close. Sitting in a beautiful ornate chair, he smiled at the children. 3 words, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. Do you know what is God? Can any of you stand up and tell me what is God? There was silence, then whispering. Finally, one 12-year-old boy stood. His schoolmates applauded and laughed. Oh, thank you, Prabhupada said. Come here. The boy approached. Do you know what is God? Prabhupada asked. Yes, the boy replied. God is self-realization, and God is found in the unconscious mind. Thank you. Again, the children applauded. No, wait, don't go away, Prabhupada said. Now you must explain what you mean. What is self-realization? Boy, it is tapping the powers of the unconscious mind and seeing yourself. Prabhupada, do you think the mind is unconscious? Boy, the mind is unconscious. Prabhupada, to understand the unconscious, you have to find out what is consciousness. Boy, I'm not talking about consciousness, the unconsciousness. Prabhupada, unless you know consciousness, how can you describe unconsciousness? Boy, the unconsciousness, the id, Prabhupada, unconsciousness is a negative side of consciousness. So you should explain what is consciousness. Then we can understand unconsciousness. Boy, consciousness, Prabhupada, yes. Try to understand what is consciousness. Then you will understand what is unconsciousness. Consciousness is spread all over the body. Suppose I pinch any part of your body. You feel some pain. That is consciousness. This feeling of pain and pleasure is consciousness. But that consciousness is individual. I cannot feel the pains and pleasures of your body. Neither you can feel the pains and pleasures of my body. Therefore, your consciousness is individual and my consciousness is individual. But there is another consciousness who can feel the pains and pleasures of your body and who can feel the pains and pleasures of my body. That is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. You have heard the name of Bhagavad Gita? You? Any of you? Another boy. Yes, Prabhupada. Who says yes? Please come here. Thank you. Very good. At least one of you knows what is Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that, and Srila Prabhupada proceeded to explain the difference between the material body and the soul, and between the individual souls and the Supreme Soul, Krishna. You are individual knower of your body. I am knower individually of my body. So everyone is knower of his own body. But there is another person who says, I know everything of everyone's body. Just like I know something of my body, or I know something of this world. Similarly, there is another Atma, soul, Supreme Atma, who knows everything of this universe. He is sometimes called God, or the Paramatma, or Krishna, whatever, according to different language. After describing the soul's intimate relationship as an eternal servant of Krishna and the soul's suffering caused by forgetting that relationship, Prabhupada concluded his lecture. This teaching should be introduced in every school and college so that from the very beginning, children understand what is God, how great He is, how we are related with God, and how we have to live. So our movement, Krishna consciousness, is teaching that thing. Don't think that it is a sectarian religion. We are making people God conscious. It doesn't matter to what religion you may belong. If by following the principles of religion, one becomes advanced in God consciousness, that is first class religion. That is our motto. And we are preaching all over the world. Therefore, I request your teachers here to make the students from the beginning God conscious. Then their future life will be very peaceful, prosperous, and hopeful. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. I think, okay, there's a few lines more. Prabhupada also agreed to speak at Wayside Chapel, a center in downtown Sydney, ministering to drug addicts and prostitutes. A Wayside sponsor met Prabhupada at the temple and accompanied him to the chapel. The sponsor, a long-haired young man in hippie dress, boasted of how Wayside Chapel had drug addicts. Prabhupada, however, took it that he was saying the chapel supplied drugs to the addicts. At Wayside Chapel, a skeptic in the audience challenged Prabhupada. Prabhupada had explained that the chanting of the holy names of God was the only way to actually help people. But the cynic challenged, what good actually is this chanting of Hare Krishna? It saves you from death, Prabhupada answered forcibly. So we can end here this wonderful description of Srila Prabhupada preaching Krishna consciousness in different countries for different audiences. Some Indian people who already know a little bit. Some are not knowing anything. Some are children. Some are even drug addicts. This is how Prabhupada does not discriminate whether the audience is suitable or not. Anyone, any circumstance, anyone should hear the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and know at least one thing. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we are eternal servants of Krishna. This is what Srila Prabhupada wants to convey throughout the world to all types of audiences. Hare Krishna. Questions? All right. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.